Magic Conj, will I ever get to meet Tom Kenny?
Maybe someday.
Oh, so you're saying there's a chance. Okay. Should I tell fans of the show how they can support us?
Yes.
Goofy Goobers, supporting the show is shockingly easier than catching a blue jellyfish. Right from our anchor page, anchor.fm/spongepod, you can find links to all of our social media and a support button if you happen to have a few extra clams. Also follow us on twitch.tv/SpongeBobPodcast, where it's not only the official home to our sister show, Video Bob Game Pants, it's also where I stream live drawings of various Nickelodeon characters and host the opportunity for commissions and giveaways. Lastly, the official merchandise store is now open at redbubble.com/people/SpongePod, where various designs will be uploaded inspired by our show, including our official logo, which is now available on a multitude of products like t-shirts, stickers, duvet covers, and even a shower curtain. This is a podcast by a fan, for fans, and will always be fan-driven. Any way you see fit on supporting our show is much appreciated. Thank you, and enjoy. Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to another episode of I'm Ready, a SpongePod Squarecast. My name is Captain Eric, and we are continuing our adventure through the first season of SpongeBob SquarePants. It has been a crazy week here on the show. Of course, last week we launched our first episode of Video Bob Game Pants over on Twitch, and I just want to thank any of the fans who came out, watched the stream, got involved in a little bit of the chat. Very much appreciated. We played through Nicktoons Racing, all three versions of it. And of course, the next episode of this show will be dedicated to kind of a review of that game, and what my thoughts are on all three versions. All four versions, kind of. I mean, let's be real here, okay? Total honesty, there's 5 releases of that game. There's the Game Boy Color, there's the Game Boy Advanced, and then the PS1, PC, and arcade versions. Those last 3 are practically the same game, with very obvious minor differences. The PC version looks better than the PS1. The arcade version is obviously has a physical wheel and gas pedals and a button for your weapons, but is also meant to gobble your quarters up. So we played through those, and it was getting the streams together. I've streamed more in the last month or two than I have in my entire life. The idea of streaming, being a streamer, being someone, it's not just about like working at home, but the idea of just, hey, constantly making content and people being with you while you're making it. It's an exciting thing to go after. But God bless these streamers who stream for like 12 hours a day. God bless you guys. I streamed for 6 hours the day that Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated came out. I streamed the game, and at 6 hours, I was tired. I was exhausted, and it's not like the entire time I was commentating through the game. I was saying natural feelings when stuff came up, or I would point out things, but I certainly wasn't super chatty. Maybe that's just me. I don't like playing games in one sitting, because if I'm really enjoying a game, I want to stretch that enjoyment out as much as I can. I've certainly, there are obvious certain games that I've been able to beat in one sitting. Recently, I played Portal 2 again. I got into the idea of Portal again, and I put Portal 2 on my Xbox One X, and I pretty much played it in one day. You know, it was like a 5 or 6 hour game, and it was done. It was like, okay, cool. But when that game first came out, I didn't beat it for days. I would play like a few, one chapter a day, or I would do a few rooms and put it down. And I like to stretch my enjoyment out. So, I have such a respect for some of these streamers out there, and especially the ones really, really trying to make it their living. I respect the hustle. I hope to get there one day myself, but yeah, in these like starting moments, I have a lot of respect. And there's just so many, especially when you're trying to stream from a game system. I've run into so many issues. Borrowed my roommate's capture card, I have a camera, and there was a situation where the Battle for Bikini Bottom one just. Maybe I mentioned this on a previous episode when I talked about the issues with the streaming, but it was like I spent the night before getting everything set up, and for anyone who's tuned into one of my streams knows I have a really nice overlay that I worked hard on. But that night I spent time working on the notifications that would pop up with Twitch when you get a follower or a sub or when you get bits. And the game stream was working, but then the next morning, the issue was like the game stream was working, but then the camera wasn't. I restarted the computer, and then the camera was working, and the game stream wasn't. So it was like, oh, I'll do this in the morning. And in the morning, like, everything was working, but then it wasn't. Then starting the stream, and then there was no audio. It was just... I have so much respect for the people who do this on a daily basis. Certainly streaming from emulators, which is what we used for Nicktoons Racing on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. I own both cartridges, so I don't mind downloading a ROM and playing an emulation, but it's just easier to just stream from, just like straight from the computer. So no issues there. But yeah, so beyond that, my career, my job kind of exploded. So there's just this whole new level of anxiety and responsibility. So like trying to maneuver through that, but then you're like, oh wait, there's a lot of streaming stuff coming up, and it's just it's rough, but I'm getting through it. Today we're gonna be watching the episode F.U.N, which is probably one of the most well-known season 1 episodes there are. And certainly the F.U.N song is one of the most well-known SpongeBob jingles there is. I can't think, I mean, when I'm in my head, when I'm thinking, like, what are the most well-known songs other than the theme song? And it's, you know, the Goofy Goober Rock and Ripped Pants and Gary's song, and then boom, like, F.U.N is right. And to be honest, like, F.U.N was one of the first ones I thought about. I had 2 SpongeBob alarm clocks growing up. One was like a beach setting that would just play the theme song when the alarm went off, and the other is of F.U.N, and it's got SpongeBob and Plankton. They got the big F.U.N I and it actually plays the F.U.N song as an alarm. When I take the break in between, you know, when we start the show, I'm gonna see. I don't have the beach one anymore. I don't know what happened to that one, but I do have the F.U.N alarm clock still. Not that it was my original, but a friend found it at like a Goodwill a year or 2 ago and gifted it to me, and it was like, oh man, I love this. I'm gonna see if I still have batteries in it, and you can listen to what that alarm sounds like. It's not a fairly good alarm clock, but it's as far as like a sit on a shelf art piece, I love it. It's got some good designs of SpongeBob and Plankton, and even looking to my other side. And I'm looking over at the SpongeBob Pop collection I have buried in the Nickelodeon collection. They just recently created an Amazon exclusive Funko Pop of F.U.N with SpongeBob holding the big letters, and then you got a mini Plankton in the middle of the U, and it's an absolute adorable pop. I'm glad they made that because Plankton really needed another pop available, because he just before then only I think that's the first time he's appeared himself, because before then the only other time they even attempted to make Plankton as a Funko Pop was in the 2-pack where SpongeBob was dressed as Leonardo, and it's in this like tin lunchbox type container, and you got SpongeBob as Leonardo the Ninja Turtle, and you got Plankton as Shredder. They made this little Plankton. I don't have that. That's one of the pieces that I need in this collection. But anyway, so here we have F.U.N, which, man, like if you were a kid when this came out, that was a jingle you were repeating everywhere you were going. Was you were thinking about the F.U.N song. The working title of this episode was called My Fair Plankton, which I'm glad they changed it, because that really doesn't that doesn't fit as well as just F.U.N does. I mean, when you see that title card, and it's one of the most unique title cards to date, because it's the first one with like a full black background and the colors are within the letters. It's a really striking title card if you've been looking at all of them up to this point. The voice, just a bit of trivia here before we start the episode. The voice that Doug Lawrence uses for the cowboy in the beginning of this episode is the same voice used for Gib Hootson in Rocko's Modern Life. My goodness. I just realizing I have just this weird knowledge of just random moments in my head of voice actors. And Billy West, for those that don't know Billy West, he is my favorite voice actor. I'm hoping to meet him next year when he comes to the Kineticon or the CT Con up here. You want to talk about anxiety. This is what my anxiety. Reading that Billy West is coming and me not knowing what I should get signed by him. I, of course, have 5 Ren and Stimpy Funko Pops. I have the 2 original, the 2 chases, the 2-pack. I have the Dorbs, but I don't think I'd want to get Dorbs signed, so that's kind of out of the race. Then I have a black and white pencil drawing from Bob Camp of Ren and Stimpy being held by Uncle Hunger in the tub. During the episode, I think it's Big Baby Scam. I mentioned this one part of this episode that always made me laugh as a kid, and Bob Camp was like, I know what you're talking about. And you know what? I'm going to tell you a funny story about Bob Camp in a second. Let me get through Billy West. I'm already on a trajectory train. But anyway, Billy West, I have all those to get signed. I have that drawing by Bob Camp. He's obviously the voice of many of the characters in Futurama, Fry, Zap Brannigan, Professor Farnsworth. I have all those pops. And I'm like, do I just bring a Stimpy or the 2-pack and Fry? Do I bring the drawing by Bob Camp and get that signed by Billy West? I wish I could spend an hour with Billy West, not only to get him to sign all this stuff, but I have so many questions. I would love to meet him. I love the guy. Anyway, the reason I brought all that up is because I have this weird memory of things, and during one of the podcasts that Billy West has been on, it might have been Nerdist or Penn Sunday School, the Penn Jillette podcast, where he has this Southern voice, and he brings up a character named Hoot Gibson, which is not a character at all, because I was in a burger joint a couple months ago, and they had a poster for a film that was starring Hoot Gibson. He was a rodeo champion, a film actor, a director, a producer. So it's not a fake name. He's an actual cowboy. So this was clearly a play on Hoot Gibson, Gib Hootson. But what was weird is that I never knew about this actor, this guy, before I heard Billy West just come up with this name. And I'm in my head, I'm like, that's an interesting, funny Southern guy name. And then I'm sitting here, then I'm at that bar looking at the poster going, Hoot Gibson. Oh my God, Billy West didn't make that up. That was an actor. And then sitting here reading Gib Hootson. I have a weird train of thought in where my mind goes. Anyway, quick Bob Camp story, because I don't know whenever this is going to be appropriate since I brought up Bob Camp. So that same day, I'll tell you the exact day this happened. August 16th, 2015. At this CT Con at one of the casinos. I think it was Mohegan Sun had this con. And there was 2 people at that con that I wanted to meet more than anyone else. I was saving my money up because it's not, other than the price of admission to get into the con, it's can get kind of expensive if you meet a lot of people. So the 2 people I wanted to meet was Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and Bob Camp, one of the creators of Ren and Stimpy. And Kevin Conroy, I had signed the faceplate for my Batman PS4, which I still have. And Bob Camp, there was obviously, I maybe wanted to get something signed, but he had so many different options. He could just sign a picture, or he could draw something for you. And I think it was about maybe just like $100, and he fully draws a black and white pencil drawing. I think for maybe 150 or 175, he would color it. But I'm old school. I was like, I don't want him to color it. I just want an old pencil drawing. So I paid, and they take your number down. They take your name and number down because they'll text you when it's done, because he obviously builds up a whole day's worth of work. So August 16th, 2015 at 12:37 p.m., I get a text from this number, and it says, "Happy, happy, joy, joy. Your drawing is done. See you soon." I saved that number. I saved that text message conversation. I saved the number in my phone as Bob Camp, and I saved that text. It just sat, I'm texting more and more people, and it's just falling to the bottom of my list of text messages, and it's still there to this day, 5 years later. And if I ever meet him again or get to talk with him, I would absolutely tell him I still have this, because it just meant, I don't know, I just felt great. Like, I have Bob Camp's phone number, and here's this text I got. But but then, less than a year later, Tuesday, May 17th, 2016, I accidentally texted this number thinking it was my girlfriend at the time. And I said, "Hi, boo," at 9:22 p.m. It was 9 o'clock at night. And the response I get, because my text message, like, I wasn't looking in... the first one I may have accidentally clicked on and then wrote it, but any of the text messages that was coming in, it were just coming from the top down. So I wouldn't see, maybe I would see the name, but I would just see the text, and it would say reply. And the reply was, hi, with a question mark, exclamation point, and then the thinking emoji. And I replied to that just saying, "I just wanted to say I love you." And the response came back a minute later saying, "Love is all there is," exclamation point, and the emoji with hearts in its eyes. And when I read that, my heart sank, because I realized that that's something that's totally weird and not something my girlfriend would say. And I realized that I had texted the Bob Camp phone number, who his, I think it's his wife, was curating at the time. She was the one, in charge of the phone list. So it could be her number for all I know. And I realized this, and I was like, oh, like, my heart sank. It took me 3 minutes to respond, and I was just staring at my screen like, oh my God, I messed this up. So I texted back, "Oh boy, Mr. or Mrs. Camp, I do apologize. This is embarrassing," crying emoji. And they responded, "Right on, giggle, giggle, we love you too," and then sent me a picture of Ren and Stimpy, like, smiling maniacally from the episode Stimpy's Invention. And I just texted back, "Thanks so much," with, like, the crying, laughing emoji. And I didn't learn my lesson. I've still kept that text message conversation. And man, it just makes me happy knowing that happened and that they were so cool about it. And I can't wait, if I ever get to meet them again, to show them that, like, hey, I'm the weird guy who accidentally texted you less than a year later, and we'll laugh about that. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're actually going to watch and talk about the episode F.U.N. So stick with us.
2,000 years later.
All right, welcome back. By the way, I had somebody ask me, I guess CBS All Access, for those that don't know, is an app. It's just another streaming app, but it has to do with Viacom and CBS. I guess early next year, they are going to be, like, redoing the app, redoing the service. And one of its big launch day things, its gets, if you will, is that every season of SpongeBob SquarePants is going to be on it, along with the new movie, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. I believe before it hits that service, it'll hit on a video on demand at some point in January. So I had somebody ask, like, hey, if, what are your thoughts on this? Right now, only the first 5 seasons are available on Amazon Prime, which is how I've been viewing the episode so far, because it's just the easiest for me. Depending on price and depending on what other options they have on CBS All Access, I might grab that, simply for the advent of having every SpongeBob episode at my disposal, having the new movie. But if there's nothing, it's really going to depend on the amount of other stuff they have on there that interests me. I'm not afraid of watching something I'm not used to, or watching something new. More or less, I just don't want to be paying for one show, you know? I wish Nickelodeon had. I mean, if they add, I know that they recently added Avatar and Danny Phantom to CBS All Access. If they just had every Nick show, $10 a month, I would be fine with that. And I'm talking like every Nick show, everything from Ren and Stimpy all the way up to new stuff like The Loud House, every live action show, all that, Keenan and Kel, Drake and Josh, the Amanda Show. Just get everything on there. Get everything under one umbrella, and I'll be interested. Because I almost got Verve's Nick, I think it's like Nick Rewind or Nickelodeon. There's like a Nicktoons section of Verve, and it's $7.99 to $10 a month. But there's only like, a handful of shows, and I'm sorry, I want everything. So if Icom does that, just takes all the Nickelodeon stuff and throws it on CBS All Access, I will happily, along with Hulu and Disney Plus and everything else I'm paying for. So that's a possibility, but I'm gonna wait until things are out and I can see how it does. Anyway, so we're watching F.U.N. today. Nothing. I mean, this is the second Plankton-centric episode we have after Plankton. He has appeared, since then. And this is an episode that looks into the idea of SpongeBob thinking that Plankton might not be as bad as he is. He's lonely. What if he had a friend? Maybe he wouldn't. If he had some distractions, maybe he wouldn't be so after the Krabby Patty formula. And honestly, it seems like it worked a little bit. There seemed to be a friendship that actually formed between SpongeBob and Plankton. Something that would obviously be echoed with episodes down the road. This is something that really first planted the seeds of Plankton possibly not being just a completely evil individual. And I always found that interesting. And so this is the first steps of this little friendship here between SpongeBob and Plankton that has been in a tennis match back and forth. More on Plankton just being evil, but there's been signs from this episode that there could be more behind him, and SpongeBob is the one to accept it. He's always accepted Plankton, although when Plankton crosses that line of trying to get the Krabby Patty secret formula, SpongeBob will be there to stop him. But if Plankton's not crossing that line, SpongeBob's like the one guy in town who actually could probably hold a conversation with Plankton and not hate being around him. But anyway, so if you want to follow along with me, I am going to be starting the episode. I just have to find it. This is where sometimes I wish I could be more prepared, but here we are. All right, so I'm going to start the episode in about 1 second. Just getting it to the point in the middle of the episode. It's the second part of episode 10, so I'm going to be skipping the theme song. I'm just waiting for the end of Culture Shock. This is great. Okay, so if you want to follow along with me, you can press play on your devices now. And here we have our F.U.N. title card. The Chum Bucket is across town in this episode. I don't know if anyone's noticed. In most episodes, the Chum Bucket is right across the street. But also, check that out. The SpongeBob at like a fryer. You don't see that too often. And what an impressive security system Mr. Krabs has in the Krusty Krab there, with all of the metal coming down. And I also think it's interesting too, Squidward has in future seasons never cared as much as he does right here to catch Plankton. Like, Squidward in the early seasons is very much involved at the Krusty Krab and seems to actually enjoy his job, but later on they really hammer home that he could care less about this place and what happens, and him and Mr. Krabs acting as if SpongeBob ripping off his skin, like, oh, he's now a superhero. But yeah, so this is crazy. Usually, why is Plankton going through downtown Bikini Bottom? I mean, maybe he's thinking that because the Chum Bucket is across the street from the Krusty Krab, that it would seem like he would just take the straight line, and by going this far out of town, he's almost dodging being caught. I don't know. That's the only explanation I can think about other than this scene. Here we have our first look at the magic shop in Bikini Bottom. And I love how for a second the fake glasses and the nose and the mustache actually works on SpongeBob. He's just talking to a burger with sunglasses, or with just regular reading glasses. One of my favorite parts of this episode is the "He's a Jolly Good Rookie" song. I love that everybody in town just comes in to celebrate this moment. It's everybody calling Plankton a loser. It's one thing for the cops to be involved, and it's another thing for Mr. Krabs and Squidward, but for the whole town to basically cheering on this moment. The the animation of the cop singing for "He's a Jolly Good Rookie" always makes me laugh. And this is what sets SpongeBob away from everybody else, is having this moment to take a step back and think about Plankton and think about how lonely he is. He has no friends. He literally, his only companion is a computer. Plankton, I love that here's the one thing about Plankton. He does seem to really care about his restaurant and wants it to succeed, but he has no attempts at trying to create like decent food that people would want to eat. I wish there were more episodes having to do with Plankton, instead of just trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula, trying to like create more food. Trying to get a chef, like trying to get a SpongeBob type character. It's happened before, in which the Chum Bucket becomes semi-popular. There's been episodes, more recent episodes, like Patrick coming up with the slogan "Chum is fun," and people just like eating into that. And so this scene right here with Plankton, what do we do after we eat him? There's actually a deleted scene in this episode when he's holding the net and he's imitating a rifle. He goes, "What do we do after we shoot him?" And SpongeBob then, of course, would have answered that, but that obviously got changed to "What happens after we eat him?" SpongeBob responding to "We don't eat him. What is fun?" Here's our first rendition of the Fun song, and we all know the words here. F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. N is for anywhere and anytime at all down here in the deep blue sea. And of course, Plankton's rendition. F is for fire that burns down the whole town. U is for uranium bombs. N is for no survivors when you interrupted. How many kids and how many adults my age could you walk up to and just say, like, "Hey, F is for friends who do stuff together," and have all of them say, "U is for you and me"? It is literally so well known. Sometimes there's one thing about this episode. This is more of a technical thing. Sometimes this episode airing on Nicktoons and on Nickelodeon, along with Culture Shock, shows in a brighter saturation. For some reason. I don't know why it happens with this episode. N is for nose picking, cherry gum, and sand licking. When SpongeBob is chasing the patty off of the building, he uses his blown up Krusty Krab employee hat to bounce around town. However, when he catches the patty at the magic shop, his hat is back on his head and deflates. It's a bit of an error there. This is the scene I wanted to talk about. In the end of this episode, spoiler warning for anybody who has never seen this episode, Plankton has a very sad moment with SpongeBob where he admits that he enjoyed being friends with SpongeBob, enjoyed his friendship, enjoyed what they were doing, and SpongeBob like asks him like, "Really?" And Plankton goes, "No, of course not." But that scene we just watched with Plankton and Karen, where he's putting on square pants, he's alone. He doesn't need to, like, Karen's whole plan was to, hey, be friends with SpongeBob and it'll get you to the Krabby Patty formula. If he didn't like hanging out with SpongeBob and having fun, he wouldn't have had that scene alone with Karen where she's kind of calling him out like, hey, you're kind of forgetting about the plan here. And, you know, he's saying he's having fun with SpongeBob. I always found it incredibly weird that even though in the end he takes all of that back, there's that scene alone that he just admits he enjoys hanging around with SpongeBob. And then, of course, he just stole the Krabby Patty there, which is incredible. We were watching Plankton the whole time. Here we are in the movie theater, and here's our second appearance of Bubble Bass, who just sits on Plankton, and then when SpongeBob's like, hey, you're sitting on my friend, just moves his butt around. This is, of course, a fairly popular scene, too, online. I've seen it in a few memes, although it has not hit big yet. Who knows? It takes that one meme to send this over the top of the edge. Reach into his pocket. Can you imagine being in a movie theater and having something like this happen? Like, would you actually reach into the person's pocket to your left or right? I don't know. This is one of 7 episodes in which the 1986 Paramount logo is plastered with the 2002 Paramount logo. I'm guessing at the end of the episode. The others are Help Wanted, Squeaky Boots, Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, Employee of the Month, Karate Choppers, and Rock Bottom. Fun apparently is the only episode title so far to be in acronym form. That's completely new to me. Of course, not to forget the writers of this episode: Sherm Cohen, Aaron Singer, and Peter Burns. Aaron Singer was also the storyboard artist. The storyboard was done by Sherm Cohen. Animation was by Fred Miller, and of course our man Derek Dryman on the creative end. So Plankton totally at the end, opens up to SpongeBob on his actual feelings, but then completely disregards them. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that even though Plankton's real goal at the end of the day was to get the Krabby Patty secret formula, I think he did have fun hanging out with SpongeBob. I think he did have fun being around another person. I think he enjoyed not being lonely, like being cared for. But I don't think it was strong enough to cover over his desire for the Krabby Patty secret formula. And then here we have one of my favorite endings to an episode is the fact that Bubble Bass thinks Plankton is a jelly bean. And I don't know if he's looking down, seeing Plankton run around, because his fin is following him. So he's like trying to catch this jelly bean, but I don't know if Bubble Bass just would eat Plankton if he's that hungry. It bothers me, but I love it. The Chum Bucket special of the day is Chumbalaya, a pun on Jambalaya. And that was fun. That was our episode. A fairly simple yet fun episode. There's a reason why it's a standout in the first season. it it delves away from what you would expect. I think by the end we all expect Plankton to still be a little evil, but just like with that scene, I don't think you would expect him to actually enjoy hanging out with SpongeBob, enjoy that fun they're having. I think it, I don't think any fan would expect that, and certainly it's something that doesn't fit 100% with his character. But hey, it's there. It happened. Beyond that, there are so many reasons that this episode is beloved. Beyond the song, beyond the message it sends, I think this is an episode where people really began to like Plankton as a character. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would like to imagine that after the first Plankton episode where he takes over SpongeBob's body, I think people maybe liked him, but I don't think they loved him. I think this was an episode where genuine love for that character and how he fits in the narrative of the show. I think fun is what cements it, and that's why it's so beloved. The song is beloved on its own, but I think this episode really places Plankton on the map more so than his debut episode, because it just the fact that it works so well. It's even though Plankton's one goal is a constant throughout the series. When you look down at future episodes, like like he obviously has one goal, but then when you kind of take him away from that goal for a second and enjoy him as a character, that's where this enjoyment comes. Like that's where the whole purpose of this episode can really come from. Is even though his end goal is still to get that Krabby Patty formula, you take him away from that for a second, you'll find something else to like about that character, and that's why he's been such a mainstay, and that's why he is so important to the entire story. He's not just a one-trick pony. He has many other tricks that we will see over the course of the next few episodes and seasons that involve him. He grows exponentially as a character, and the seeds for that were planted right here in this episode. And that's the way I see it. I've said that to a few other people, and some people go, no, I loved him the second he was in that first episode. I really think for most people it was this one that really cemented the love for Plankton, the love to hate him kind of aspect of his character. But anyway, that was fun. And this means, it's over, which means that that's another episode of I'm Ready, a SpongePod Squarecast that is over. Please check out the next episode of the show. It will be a review of Nicktoons Racing, the first episode of Video Bob Game Pants. If you're not already following us, twitch.com/SpongeBob Podcast. By all means, go and send us a follow. I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to try at least once a week for 2 or 3 hours. Play games. I have a regular Twitch account for more mature games like Gears of War, but I've already played things like Cuphead and Streets of Rage 4. Of course, the new SpongeBob game and a few others on our SpongeBob podcast. So it's not just SpongeBob games. Of course, a majority of them are SpongeBob games. But yeah, follow us on Twitch. I love hanging out with you guys. And thank you for listening to this episode. By all means, if you can find any way to support the podcast, please do it. Share this around. Share this in groups. Let people know. Let other fans know that this show exists, because the more people we can get on this wagon, I think the more fun we will have. Until next time, ahoy, mateys.